In 1982, 5 students from Michigan State University spend a spring break getaway in a remote cabin in the Tennessee mountainside. By dawn, 2 will be dismembered, 2 melted, and 1 presumed missing. With no clear answers and a cabin full of rare occult artifacts, this goes down as one of the weirdest unsolved mysteries in North American history, and it helped popularize the Necronomicon and help kickstart the Satanic Panic. This is the story of Ashy Slashy, the Tennessee Cabin Slayer. Hello, my name is Leslie Morris.
And I'm John Noonan.
And we are talking about Ashley Joanne Williams. Now, when did you first hear about this case?
I think I'm a lot like a lot of people that I actually saw the adaptation, for want of a better word, Within the Woods.
But wasn't that a video nasty? How did you get a copy of that?
See, this is the thing.
You grew up in the UK.
I did.
Wouldn't that have been banned?
No, well, that's what I was going to bring up because it was hushed whispers in the school corridors. And people were like, "Oh, have you seen Within the Woods? Oh, have you seen Within the Woods? Oh, a woman gets raped by a tree. And there's this book." But yeah, it finally came out. I think it came out finally on VHS. Ask your parents. Must have been roughly around about 95, 96, maybe earlier. And I remember buying it for the princely sum of £6. And and it was edited. It was slashed. It was slashed for want of a better phrase. Because it was a video nasty. It was deemed to be reprehensible. It didn't matter that I think Stephen King was a big fan of it, but no, didn't matter. And I don't believe the actual film itself got a proper release until good sort of like 5 years later. It finally, when DVD became all the fashion, it finally got released. But yeah, like I say, everyone else sort of whispered, we heard about this, but I never really paid attention to the news and never had no idea that there was a real thing that actually happened. It's a bit freaky.
Well, I first watched it. I was really young. And this isn't, when people have that story, it's like, oh, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I was really young.
Didn't affect me.
Oh, no. I have the opposite story. I remember being like 4, and this is actually one of my earliest memories. And this was in the 80s, and I grew up in a very small town in rural New South Wales in Australia. And that is seen by the fact that my dad's friend, who was called Fat Richie... Who?
That's the most Australian name I could possibly think of. G'day, this is my mate, Fat Richie.
Oh no, he was just a small fat guy who I think
called Richard.
He was trying to impress my dad, and this is he rented it overnight, so you had to bring it around to somebody's house and watch it again because it was like $7 in mid-1980s money.
Jeez.
And I remember watching it up until I didn't get very far. Like it was one of those early scenes when they're looking at it, like it was a couple of minutes in, and I just remember just being, this is just too much for me. I don't think anything violent happened. But I also remember being I went and did something else, and it came back into the lounge room as the ankle stabbing scene. And I was like, nope, I'm done.
Good night.
And then through just whatever, I work for a film distribution company, and my boss originally released it in Australia.
Oh, far out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So then he asked me for the $6 for the rental fee because clearly
you got to make a profit somehow.
And I gave him. I was like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, and it was terrifying, but not in a good or fun way. It just fucked me up.
Yeah, actually, my mum watched it before me, obviously.
Yeah,
and as well as the hushed whispers in corridors, high school corridors, she was my gateway, so to speak, because she always said before I finally got a copy, I'm not scared of any film, but that fucked me up. And it's like, nice, Mum. So that's why I remember my mum for it. Fucked me up.
Yeah, did she give trees
a wide berth?
Yeah, just
dude.
Shouldn't joke about that. We'll lose our TV show or a franchise or something like that. Within the Woods was a high-profile film based off the case, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. There was actually 24 Italian knockoff films, and quite literally 24, much like Django. They just kept on producing them, and despite the fact that they were somewhat unrelated. So let's set the scene. We have Ashley Joanne Williams, his sister Cheryl Williams, his girlfriend Linda, and couple Scott and Shelley. They go up to the cabin, but I think there's a sixth member, which I think for the most part is like that fifth Beatle, completely underrated. The sixth member of the group was a beautiful 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale.
See, I thought you were going to say it, and the sixth member was all of us. All of us in some way were there.
So, and the problem with this case is there's just not a lot of information. You certainly don't know what's real or has been exaggerated, because the original police investigation, they just botched it. So, and I've got what seems like little strings of information, but let's go through and we'll do our best. So, Ashley was born and raised in Elk Grove, Michigan in the late 50s, along with his sister Cheryl. In his high school years, Ashley dated a girl named Linda. But no, not the Linda he takes to the cabin, just another girl called Linda.
He had a fetish for the name Linda by the sounds of it.
No, it's just showing you the ace information I've got about this guy. If I'm talking about the admin of his girlfriend's names, we just don't know a lot. His best friend was Chet Kaminsky, and they would throw, and I quote, the most righteous parties, where people came far and wide to get a taste of Ashley's and Chet's signature drink, the Pink Fuck. Ingredients include a mixture of liqueurs, spirits, orange rind, nutmeg, and it really had this...
It sounds delicious so far.
Oh, no. It really had this active ingredient. Can you guess what the active ingredient is?
Well, it's going to be something like a... Is it Kahlua?
Ketamine.
I was close. That's a special K of some kind, yeah.
It went down well. After high school, both he and the other Linda attended Michigan State University. He was studying engineering, and he worked part-time in retail. Around this point, he told Linda about his dream to live in Jacksonville, Florida, and to take her with him. And at some point in his teen years, Ashley learned to play classical music on the piano. All in all, people would describe him as just a pretty average kind of dude.
Isn't that always how it always is, though?
Never.
It's always there. We never said boo to a ghost or anything like that.
No, serial killers are always weird. It's just their neighbors who are idiots. It says more about how unobservant their neighbors are.
The only problem he ever did is he would be screaming from like 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. in a feminine voice, but otherwise he was just a nice, normal boy.
And there's not a huge amount of information about everyone else. Cheryl was somewhat introverted but was fun but prone to worrying. She was artistic, into music, and the only person not to drink. And she was thought to be dating Chet around this time. And now and this doesn't really honestly contribute to much, but I've got information.
There's another Linda.
No, I've got information about his father and grandfather. His father, Brock, was a notable racist.
Oh, good Lord.
Who ran the town's local hardware store, but closed it down after the town started blaming Ashley for the murders. And his grandfather, James Williams, was a government agent in the late 1920s and was a part of the Untouchables, led by Elliot Ness in Chicago. He was beaten to death, presumably by gangster Jerry Scalelli and his bodyguard Jasper Tate. Now, Scotty, this is kind of weird because Scotty, he was the alpha male of the group. He was kind of, jokester, prankster. Like Ashley, it's important to point out Ashley was kind of, can I use a modern term, the beta male of the group?
Well, that's what I always heard. And that's kind of one of the things when I sort of found out the sort of real history of Within the Woods. It's like, he was such a massive drip.
Yeah.
in the film. It's shocking.
Yeah. And being the 80s, what do we know about Linda and Shelley? The only thing I can pull up about Linda is that she was possibly psychic.
Brilliant. This is what you get paid for, man.
Nothing suspicious happened leading up to the trip. The day before, Ashley got his car serviced, and he bought Linda a necklace from a Michigan jewelry store called Corey's Jewel Box.
Sorry, necklace.
Necklace.
That's what I'm laughing at. As you were.
Ashley thought to be very much in love with his girlfriend, Linda Necklace. Oh, wait a minute. That's... the trip from Michigan to Tennessee would have been around 8 hours, and the students were seen twice before entering the cabin. Firstly, on Interstate 75, just past the Tennessee border, where the Oldsmobile spun out of control and almost crashed into a truck. Scotty, who was driving at the time, regained control at the last moment. See, what's kind of weird about this case that there's so many like little things that aren't enough to really raise your eyebrow, but there's so many of them combined, it feels weird because that in and of itself, the fact the car was serviced the day before, like that stuff happens, but we'll see. There's just so much weird stuff, and one in particular. It's
kind of like the Mark Chapman thing. There's connections to John Lennon, and as you go delve into them further, you're like, well, this is scary. But you said that they were seen on the road. I mean, what I heard, the only witnesses I recall that saw them on the road were two fishermen that I think were waving, weren't they?
Saw them right after, as they in Morristown on the Kingswell Ridge Road.
That's it.
Yeah. So there's only two access points to the cabin. One was an old bridge that extended over a great chasm, and the other was a trail that led around the chasm. And apparently the bridge was, it's kind of on its last legs. So they went over the bridge and then down a dirt lane that winds around a twin set of mountains. And they were suspected to get to the cabin in the late afternoon. And the small cabin was surrounded by thick, dark wood. So there's really no way to go. Like if you went into the woods, you're going up to a mountain. It's just really the trail and the bridge.
It's like you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cabin itself comprised of two small bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathroom, a main room, which featured a large stone fireplace, a cellar, and a romantic swing on the front porch.
See, it sounds delightful. That sounds nice. That's like if you had on Airbnb, you'd be like, I'm going to go for that one.
But thankfully, the only good thing the police did is they took a lot of pictures. And you wouldn't want to put any of the pictures of the inside of the cabin, even if you did clean up all the blood, because the inside of the cabin just is this horrible kind of white, stark. But the outside looks quite nice.
Really, that's the thing, because I'm curious, because like within the woods it looks horrendous, but I mean, are there any? Do we know why they went to that cabin? I mean, it's
I'm coming up to that.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll leave it.
So near the cabin was a small tool shed and another shed further behind that. It's important to note that the week leading up to the massacre, the locals had an issue with the radio signals dropping out and just a general sense of unease in the area. Once again, like, of itself for nothing, but you add and add and add.
Yeah, of course.
Now, there's two conflicting stories about how they came to the cabin, which will be important later. One is that Scotty rented it for dirt cheap. The other is that they heard about the cabin being abandoned by its previous owner.
Well, that's a surefire reason why you should go to a cabin then. I heard it got abandoned. They've never seen the people that own it anymore. Let's go, guys. Party in here.
Well, it was like the early 80s. It's like...
I'm not victim blaming, by the way. I just want to make that very, very clear. I'm not victim blaming. I just think, a bit caution.
Because you also notice there's two bedrooms. So obviously Scotty and Cheryl would have had one and Ash and Linda would have had the other. So, you're getting away from your parents, you're drinking. You're having a nookie. So it's like, awkwardly asking your sister to go in the main room while you get it on with your girlfriend.
I wondered if she was supposed to bring someone herself.
Yeah, she was dating Chet at the time.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Which... we'll put a landing on that.
Got a little pen and just stick it in the board there. Yeah, keep going.
This will come back later.
He looks at me with this look of saying like, yeah, that's right. Intrigues. You can't see it, but he is actually beckoning me with each sentence.
So, and from there, no one knows what happened. And fun fact, this was never covered on Unsolved Mysteries.
Really?
Yes.
Case file? Forensic files? Any of those?
Probably later on. Even though it being a very big case. Okay, so as I mentioned before, police bungled the case because of finding the Necronomicon in the fireplace.
I think we should, for those who have actually just jumped in, that's going to mean nothing to them.
What?
The Necronomicon Ex Mortis. If they haven't seen Within the Woods, I mean, I know it is, you know what it is, and people listening will do.
I've got about 32 pages explaining what it is.
Oh, you lucky people, you.
It's basically a magical Gilmore, like a spell book.
Okay, that's cool.
And at the time, people didn't really know what it was. They just knew it was satanic of some nature.
Right, okay.
And it took a little bit later for it all to click. So the police were under pressure to solve the case fast. Because, just in the public consciousness, this stuff was happening. So the police came up with this solution, and I quote, Ashley Joanne Williams went on a marijuana rampage.
Ah, the old reefer madness.
Inspired by Satan and fueled by rock and roll music, he killed his friends, despite there being absolutely no evidence.
Wow, that's... Jeez.
And this idea that Ash was the killer, which there's no real evidence to suggest that, gets picked up on the 2000 Italian knockoffs of Within the Woods, where in those films, Slashy Ashy is the serial killer. We can't kind of get around the fact in the original, because the first one's called Ashy Slashy, they see the tree rape scene from Within the Woods and go, you know what? Hold my spaghetti. Only Italians, like the scene in that version goes for twice as long.
Oh, Jesus.
And only Italians could include a zombie nun lesbian scene in the middle of it.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, that's insane.
Well, like, they all get crazy. Like, and as the series go on...
Is it like the Fast and Furious franchise? It just keeps getting more and more insane with each one. By the end of it, Ashy Slashy's in a USSR submarine just crashing through the water.
Well, he kind of becomes a ghost, and then he kind of becomes a zombie killer, and then he's like a shapeshifter. What have you seen them, or?
This is I again heard rumors. They're very hard to get. I mean, I struggle with the best of times. I don't download like some people.
Okay, fair enough. The theory that he was a killer has been propagated more so from popular culture than anything else. Now, the main theory, which has been constructed after the fact, primarily by the internet, is this: that it was thought that the cabin was owned by Professor Raymond Noby. He was either an ancient history or Egyptian mythology lecturer at Dexter University. He had just spent several years exploring the remains of an ancient English castle called Castle Kadar, where he found the Necronomicon and a Kandarian dagger. Now, John,
you're going to ask me about Castle Kadar, aren't you?
You're from England.
I am indeed. Yes, Castle Kadar, massive tourist spot now.
Oh, really?
It really is. It's like, I don't know. If you go to Pier, I think it's Pier 19 in San Francisco. It's basically like what. It's basically a tourist trap where you can go and get like candy floss and clam chowder and all that sort of stuff. And it's basically, I made the comment once, it looks like what Disney's Epcot Center would have imagined San Francisco was. That's pretty much what the castle looks like now. Like, it was, my understanding was sort of roughly around about that time. I mean, when did you say he was, like
early 80s? Yeah.
Early 80s, yes, early 80s. I mean, around about then, it was a site of significant interest. And I think, because, and well, actually now in hindsight, is because of everything that happened with Ashy Slashy and the connections and the whispers and the internet. I think the last sort of 15, 20 years, people have just been making their way there, taking their pictures, and then some bright spark along the way. I think possibly someone that owns, well, I don't want to mention the name, but it rhymes with Bolton Towers. They basically bought some land there. They've built it up. So it's basically, you've got, if you can try and imagine it, it is a rundown castle that has this high velocity sort of roller coaster just shooting in and out of it. It's not my country's proudest moment. I'll be honest with you. In terms of, like, it's just underneath Brexit. I don't. But no. The castle does exist. It is there. It is a tourist trap now. So I think any historians have got interest in it now. They just stay away from it. I think because of the association with what happened with the professor himself, who was that's the universal gesture for Because of all that, I think people stay away.
The main theory is that it's thought that two associates of Nobi must have found out that he had the dagger in the book, and they went to the cabin to steal it, to either sell it or keep. And they got there just before the students. And you have to remember, they were academics, not criminals. And so essentially they found themselves out of their fucking league pretty fast. From there, they went on to fuck up everything as badly as one possibly could. They took the book and dagger and hid it in the cellar. They waited until the students were all together having dinner, and with the element of surprise, they sprung out and overpowered the group. In the scuffle, they stabbed Linda in the ankle with the dagger and accidentally killed Shelley. They forced Cheryl, Scott, Ash, and Linda into the cellar and chained it shut. And then they got the hell out of there, and they would have got away with it too, if not for a really weird act of God. During this time, the bridge collapsed, which granted, the bridge was old and in need of repair, and considering the low amount of traffic that came to that area were hikers for the trail, and over winter it would be virtually nothing, and how it probably wouldn't have been really expensive to repair. I can understand why councils just kept on putting it off, because it never was urgent, but they did erect a sign that said, "Dangerous bridge, travel at your own risk, 3-ton load limit," which, if it can take a 3-ton truck,
yeah, but I mean that smacks of complacency on the behalf of the council. To be honest with you, I'm thinking of those 5 women that disappeared when potholing in America, and at the time they were the council that were there were just like, well, everyone knew that you weren't supposed to go potholing down there. It's not our fault. It's like, you didn't put a sign up, and just putting like a 3-ton sign is not going to help anybody. I mean, whatever.
Well, you can imagine the meetings that would have happened after, as now they've got this high profile serial killer, then they have to repair the bridge so people can go out there for dark tourism.
The old dark tourism.
Yeah. There would have been quite a few meetings. But, okay, so the bridge had wooden slats, which looked a bit dodgy, but this bridge still had a solid steel base. In one picture that can be found online, it looks like the steel is literally ripped apart. It has rip marks in it. Which, once again, is just odd.
I mean, has anyone ever tried to explain why it is? Because, I mean, look, we know what they're saying within the woods.
Marijuana rampage.
Marijuana rampage. So just to recap. So, Ashy Slashy has a reefer, a bit of a joke, and then goes, I'm listening to Ozzy Osbourne, and then manages to tear a bridge apart with his own hand.
It's just the answer they wanted, and it was a clear answer and a simple answer, because none of this makes sense.
That's insane.
Yeah, just because
it's just...
Okay, so they can't use the bridge. So what do you think they do, Jono?
Construct a rope bridge.
Correct. They go to the trail.
That was so close.
But you have to remember that this was the start of spring, and very few people were using the trail because it was, they've just came out of winter.
Yeah.
And during the winter, they must have had violent storms because the trail was blocked off with broken trees, many of them very prickly and dangerous. So what do you think they did, Jono?
Construct a rope bridge.
That's right. They went back to the cabin. Now, things are going to get a little bit confusing, so I probably should name them.
Okay.
Are you familiar with a TV show called The Three Stooges?
I am aware of a TV show called The Three Stooges, the precursor to the Kardashians. I'm aware of them.
What name do you think aptly sums up how stupid these guys are out of either one of the Three Stooges?
The Three Stooges got Curly, Larry, and Moe.
And?
Like
a 1973 Oldsmobile. Like a fifth Beatle, you've got a Shemp.
A Shemp.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. There was a Shemp, yes.
And Shemp had his own Shemp, you could say. Do you know who Shemp was?
Shemp? No, who was Shemp?
Shemp had a fake Shemp. Because Shemp was quite sickly, so they had to replace him with a Shemp. Oh. And his replacement was known as Fake Shemp.
Fake Shemp. That's just really, you've made the Three Stooges really sad now.
Yeah.
That's like, every time I watch it, he was too sad.
That Stooge, no one remembers.
No one remembers him, and also, he wasn't even on the screen.
So let's call associate number 1 Shemp and associate number 2 fake Shemp. Okay, so we think they go back to the cabin. Shemp takes Scotty back to clear the trail, while fake Shemp stays with the book and dagger. He buries Shirley outside and, for reasons, decapitates her. And not just decapitates her, cuts her up in tiny bits. Meanwhile, in the cellar, Ashley finds a shotgun and tools, and possibly, we think he frees himself at this point. They try to make an escape within the woods, but good old Limpy Linda
there's always one in every crowd.
Slows them down and gets caught by fake Shemp, and because, there's nowhere to go, they run back into Ashley and Cheryl does. From there, once again, for reasons... fake Shemp kills and decapitates her. Maybe he's just getting a little bit bloodlusty now.
It stings the nostrils.
Maybe all those years of sitting behind a desk.
Just snap, kill.
Yeah. He decapitates her with a shovel, maybe, and starts digging a grave.
As you do.
And
if you're going to kill someone, at least be respectful and give them a grave, you know what I mean?
So from there, Ashley sees and starts firing manically from the cabin, breaking several doors and windows. Around this time, Shemp comes back with Scotty, who's badly injured from trying to clear the trail, and Scotty dies soon after from the injuries. It's thought that maybe fake Shemp is at the front of the cabin, while Shemp comes through the back and captures Linda with the dagger. At this point, they virtually break everything in the main room, including the front door. So we think at some point that Ashley runs out of bullets, but gets the Necronomicon and threatens to burn it. They don't believe him. He does, and then they kill Cheryl. They take him captive to clear the trail. They force him to remove enough stuff so they can make their escape. But before they do that, they throw him over the ravine. And then they leave the dagger in the cabin because it would too easily connect them to the crime. They take the long way around to escape, and it's all been for nothing. No, here's all the parts that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Cheryl's nightgown was found far away from the cabin. It looks like one of the windows was broken from the outside in, and the cellar had pools of blood.
There you go.
Which, granted, Linda was down there, but aren't she really bleed? Like, it was more blood than a human being could.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which kind of ties into maybe something satanic, sacrifice, and that's kind of...
And that was a go-to in the 80s anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Must have been Satan.
Here's the most popular theory, but it's still problematic. It's problematic because it involves an element in which you can justify any plot hole with. And I'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay.
And it's disregarded also because it's virtually the same plot as Within the Woods, which suggests that an evil force possesses the students one by one. And to this theory's defense, there's few pieces of information that actually gives it credence. Firstly, in the cabin, there's a crude drawing of what looks like the Necronomicon, presumably done by Cheryl. The aforementioned book and dagger, and we'll see just how insane that they had a copy of the Necronomicon. The most rare book that has been suppressed for hundreds of years.
Rarer than Superman #1? I mean,
yeah. What's it doing in Tennessee with these people? And a tape about the Necronomicon recorded by the professor. For this to make any sense, we need to talk about the origins of the Necronomicon, and conveniently, there's kind of two different versions.
Of course there is.
Because nothing is going to be simple.
Leslie, you're giving me theories, you're not giving me facts.
Well, do you know who was only full of facts?
No. Wikipedia?
Noted occult historian H.P. Lovecraft, who was the first historian ever to talk about the Necronomicon, and actually at one point wrote a brief history of it.
You mean H.P. Lovecraft, which we would now fondly refer, if he was alive today, would be like alt-right's favourite, H.P. Lovecraft.
Well, like, yes.
I'm not. For those listening, I know there's a lot of fans of the historian Lovecraft, but I think moving forward, we do need to sort of acknowledge that some of his theories, in the light of 2018, would be considered somewhat inappropriate, in the same way that Sigmund Freud constantly connected everything to his mother, or having sex with your mother. I do feel sometimes that Lovecraft seemed to connect the he used the N-word a bit too much for my liking. I'll leave it there. I just want to let it be known. You can keep your Lovecraft papers, but let's just be fair about this.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the traditional version and then the variation which is found in this case. Mm-hmm. The Necronomicon was written by Abdul Al-Hazred, and I'm just going to say now I am going to slaughter all these names.
Like a bunch of teenagers in a cabin. Boom!
I'm going to, here's this alphabet. Can I drop it and trip over it? He was a mad poet of Sana'a in Yemen, and he lived around the year 700. He was known as a remarkably intelligent and adept at learning and translating languages. He wasn't satisfied by the teaching of Islam, so he traveled extensively over Europe and the Middle East. And for whatever reason, he seemed to have a knack of finding or discovering cities and locations that were thought to be lost or mythical or couldn't be accessed by a normal human being, which not all of these are, but he was known to go to the ruins of the long dead city of Babylon, which for those playing at home is pretty much in the center of Iraq. He explored the subterranean cities of Memphis, which is, guess where that is?
America.
Lower Egypt. He also claimed to have been to Iram, which is a lost city mentioned in the Quran. And this is kind of important to the entire story. Somewhere near Iram, he found a nameless desert town, which Lovecraft calls the Nameless City, where he found the secrets of a race older than mankind. And I won't go into too much detail because there's so much stuff to cover. I just don't want to bag it down with admin. Of course, yeah. But they were possibly what we know as reptilians.
Okay.
Then he spent, and this next part of it really formed who he was. He spent 10 years alone in the great southern deserts of Arabia. And at this point, they were known to be inhabited by protective evil spirits and monsters of death. No one exactly knows what happens there, but everyone agrees the horrific experience formed the basis of his writings. Now, I've seen at least one Facebook photo of you in a Middle Eastern desert.
Yes, so immediately that makes me the expert.
Yes, yes, it does.
So when you were saying then about him being in the, that 10-year period where we don't know what happened to him, but it informed the best part of his writing, may I suggest sunstroke? I mean, in the desert for 10 years by himself, nothing good ever comes of being on your own for 10 years in a desert.
Well, he was Middle Eastern, not a pasty Englishman.
All right. God.
Okay,
I'm Australian. I'm used to the sun. Yeah. Unbelievable.
And clearly, you've been there. You've been to the deserts. What was it like?
Hot and sandy. Sand gets everywhere. No. Look, the thing is, when I was there, it's interesting that his name doesn't get mentioned a lot.
Because Muslims hate him.
Yeah, well, that's where I was sort of aiming towards, and my pause is it's it's not something you bring up. I'm a bit of a nerd, and I'm a big fan of trying to get books from wherever, when I sort of go away, I try and read or buy a book. So, a book from, this sort of within that locale, it's just the story or something like that. When I was down south in Devon, I bought Dracula because you had to. Yeah. And someone had told me before we went, to the Middle East, if you go to the markets there, you can get anything. You can get football shirts and knockoff CK1 and all that. And if you ask around, you can get a USB with a PDF of the Necronomicon. No, you can't. And you know what else? Don't ever ask several times over. You will be asked to leave, and by asked I mean pushed forcibly out of the area. They're really, really, and we went to I've been to a couple of places in the Middle East, and it's honestly no one talks about it. It's really strange.
They haven't embraced it like Castle Kadar.
No. Like, no.
Thanks to Wikipedia, I can tell you how hellish this desert is.
White guys reading Wikipedia is what podcasts were made for. Let's go.
In terms of climate, the region is classified as hyper-arid.
Hyper-arid?
Yeah.
That's a wrestler.
Ooh, and I'm going to throw some boring facts at you. With the annual precipitation generally less than 35 millimeters, don't know what that means, with a daily mean relative humidity of about 52% in January and 15% in June and July. Whatever, but I guess I know what this next part means. Daily maximum temperatures of 47 degrees.
Yeah, have you ever like taken something to the face, like a punch, or like maybe you've just walked into a door or something?
Yeah.
You meant to push, but you pulled and bang. Yeah, that's what the heat is like in the Middle Ages. Everywhere is air conditioned, the cars, the airports, everywhere. As soon as you walk anywhere that isn't air conditioned, you just get hit to the ground by heat.
Wow. It's also good because that's not the hottest temperature. In June and August, it reaches up to 51 degrees. But at the same time, the daily minimum average is about 12 degrees in January and February, although frosts have been recorded. So it's a place of just extremes. And even without all the religious and supernatural aspect, it's enough to send you mad. Did you ask about biodiversity? I think it's a bit of a trick because there ain't no diversity in this place. Fauna includes arachnids, and then it has bracket, e.g. scorpions.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm pretty sure, but I'm no historian, I think cheetahs were still living there. And there's one more animal listed. Rodents.
That's a species. That's not like one animal. That's a species.
Okay, fair enough. And plants live throughout the amphiquarter, which I think is another section, but I just didn't really do the research.
No, I think now it's mostly all of that plus expats.
And so, we think at this point he gained his religion. He was an indifferent Muslim, and he worshipped, the old gods, these unknown entities. The two most famous we know from popular culture is, I'll probably trip over these as well, Yong Song Oath and Cthulhu. So after this period, he moved from the desert to Damascus, which is the capital of Syria, and in 730, he wrote a book of ultimate evil, and in Arabic, it's called Al-Zilif, which would be later known as the Necronomicon.
Right.
And I'm just going to refer to it as the Necronomicon.
I think that might be...
It's a lot cooler than Al-Zilif.
Yeah, and also I suggest we're probably not pronouncing it correctly, so let's go with the one we know.
And the meaning of Al-Zilif means the nocturnal sound made by insects, supposed to be the howling of demons.
Jeez. But say the name again?
Al-Zilif. It doesn't...
Al-Zilif! Maybe.
But also, their insects seem a lot scarier.
Yes, I mean. Australia have terrifying insects, as I discovered as an Englishman, but if that's the noise they're making in the middle of the night.
Well, when your insects are scorpions. All those who've had dealings with the book usually come to an unpleasant, and Al-Hazred was no exception. He died in 738 AD. How did he die, you ask me?
How did he die, Leslie?
Amazingly.
That's what I want on my tombstone. Here lies John. He died amazingly.
His death was recorded by Come on. Ibn Khalakane, an Islamic scholar, who said that he was pulled into the air and mauled and mangled by an invisible monster.
Right.
Onlookers essentially saw him get beat into a fine pace, which, if you have to go.
See, you said amazingly. I assumed you meant he was on a plane, just sort of rich beyond his wildest dreams, just tore into it. Beautiful men and women all around him, because I don't know what his proclivities were. That's amazingly. Being picked up, torn apart, and becoming basically the equivalent of kiddie food. That's a great.
Which you could kind of assume it was retaliation from an old god for sharing the secrets of their culture, because we'll talk about what the Necronomicon is later in terms of content. There's an alternative version of his death by historian August Derleth. Professor Lamban Stewart-Berry found his way into the nameless city, and it found his burial chamber and learnt his face. Essentially, he had been kidnapped in Damascus and brought back to the nameless city, where he had studied early and learnt some of the Necronomicon's lore. He was punished for betraying the secrets, was tortured, blinded, had his tongue severed, and executed. Although the entrance to his chamber warns against disturbing him, Stewberry opens up his sarcophagus anyway, finding only rags, bones, and dust remaining. However, in his sarcophagus also contains Alzared's personal incomplete copy of the Necronomicon written in Arabic. So, say you're him, what would you do next? You found this essentially mythical figure. You've essentially found the equivalent of Jesus with a version of his Bible. But also pretend you're a lot cooler and more badass.
I'd probably put it in the museum.
Stewberry then uses necromancy to call Alrazed's spirit in order to get him to draw a map of the world as he knew it. You know, he drew a map of all of these secret locations that he found, and then basically was like, thanks, bro. See ya. And let his spirit rest.
He's a Kiwi, was he? But can I just point out, you said before, imagine you were much cooler.
Yeah.
If we'd gone by my definition, you know, if we'd gone by what I suggested, put in a museum, then I'm just suggesting all the events that happen afterwards, all the terrible shit that's going to happen to people, I would have saved it. So technically, I don't want to use the word hero, but I am a hero. I'm just saying.
Okay, so I'm just going to race through this next part. It's history of the versions of the Necronomicon, and to be honest, it's a little bit dry. From there... From there, the Necronomicon was circulated among philosophers of the age, but interest died down until 950, when it was secretly translated into Greek by Theodorus Theolatus of Constantinople under the title Necronomicon. So people are using that title now. Do you know who did not like this and tried to repress the shit out of it?
The church?
Bingo!
Oh, got one right.
So they get rid of that, and it wouldn't pop up again until 1228, where scholar Onus Wormus translates it into Latin. Around this time, it's thought the original Arabic version is now lost for good. The Latin version was printed twice, first in the 15th century in Germany, then in the 17th century in Spain. Both editions didn't have any identifiable marks. You know what? There's a time and a place to bound your book in human flesh and write it in human blood. But right there at that point of history was not it. Just a simple black cover is fine.
Proof copy written at the top.
Yeah. Then in 1232, both the Latin and Greek version were banned by Pope Gregory IX. In 1692, there was thought to be a Greek version destroyed by arson. So right now, the closest translation we have to the original is the Latin version. Mm-hmm. As far as we know, there's surviving copies now reside under lock and key in the British Museum, the National Library of Paris, Harvard, the University of Buenos Aires, and the University of Arkham. An English translation was attempted by a guy called John Dean, who is an English mathematician and occult philosopher. His version was never printed and had various errors, and only fragments of his original manuscript are thought to exist. And then there's probably a few more copies that exist, we think. And like, once again, we don't really know.
Well, like my friend with his, you can get a copy on a PDF or a USB. Calling you out, Steve.
There's thought to be 2 copies in North America, one by an unknown millionaire and the other by a family in Salem. But yeah. So here's a question we haven't actually answered. What's actually in it?
Leslie, I have a question. What's actually in it?
You know, when you have a book in which people go mad or die after reading, we're not actually sure. But from context evidence, it looks like it's broken up into 2 parts. The first being summoning rituals and customs of the dead, and the second being the history of the race of extraterrestrial creatures with cosmic powers. You know, the old ones, Lovecraft stressed that these beings were so beyond comprehension that even considering them for more than a moment could warp your mind.
One could also argue, and again, I'm not detracting. If you follow the historian, that's more for you, not for me. But it also feels like a cop-out way of not having to describe anything. Oh, you couldn't even comprehend it. Where were you last night, Steve? Oh, I was out with this girl. What she looked like? Oh, you can't even comprehend what she looked like. You'd go mad.
She had tentacles. She had a cold. But also, I've saved this little bit of information for right at the end, and I think the two are connected. Alzared's source of information for the history section appears to be the cosmos itself. He would meditate after inhaling fumes from incense that included exotic ingredients like...
Oh, you want me to answer this one? I would I quite like lavender. I also like strawberry. That's quite a nice one.
Ketamine.
I think I'll stick with lavender.
Don't be silly. It was fucking opium. They had real drugs. They didn't have teenage drugs.
Teenage drugs. Yeah. Tide Pods and whatever.
Yeah. No, the guy's just huffing opium. And he waited for the knowledge to fulfill him, which is...
which you're probably going to get from huffing opium, really.
His methods were a little bit unorthodox. And this won't go over well. At the start of the section, I referred to him as a mad poet, but he also had the nickname of the Mad Arab.
I actually have heard that name before. Yeah, it's not a grand one.
Okay, so the version that takes place in this case, the one found in the fireplace, it's pretty much the same thing, but I suspect, and this is just my theory, it didn't have the history section, because if you look at the remaining photo, well, granted, most of it was burnt. It doesn't look that big. So I think it's just the incantations with the different origin stories, which could be connected. So this is the origin stories from the Necronomicon found in the fireplace.
Right.
It was written by the Dark Ones long back when they ruled the earth, and the seas ran with blood, and the Dark Ones being the same as the Old Ones because they have several names. And it was blood that was inked in the book's pages. One account claims that the book was created in a temple somewhere what we would consider modern Egypt by using miscellaneous parts from skin from various humans who failed to obey the Dark Ones to create the covers. But there's another account that suggests that the book cover came from flesh of a powerful demon who had more control over the Deadites than the Dark Ones. Now, the Deadites are they're a bit hard to explain. They're basically when somebody gets possessed by one of the spirits, they kind of turn into a zombie demon thing.
So this kind of ties into the Within the Woods, because they were sort of a suggestion there. So
well, you know where I'm going now. And written in this version were prophecies, funeral incantations, and demon resurrection passages. It's unknown how many copies or how many variations of the Necronomicon were written by the Old Ones themselves before they were banished into the mirror dimension. Let's not even cover that. That's
magic. Let's just put a line in that. Magic.
Okay, they were banished into the mirror dimension by the first chosen one, which will come up later.
Is that the same mirror dimension that for Superman 2? That's all I'm thinking of. That's the one that Terrence Stamp got thrown into, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, at least they were good company. But I think these two are connected, because if you think while Abdul was meditating, the Dark Ones could have dictated the Necronomicon to him. So it's possibly the same book. And I'm only assuming the version in this doesn't have the history sections. It's cool. No one really knows. But you can see how... You know, or maybe this...
But that's look at the Bible. The people say that the reason why Jesus' teachings are in there because he dictated them to someone else. Then we're writing it down. There you go.
Or maybe the Dark Ones writing it is metaphorical.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see how it works, given the information. So this version, like the other version, was forgotten to time for a few hundred years and rediscovered in 1300. 3 copies were discovered in a graveyard in modern England. However, how these books ended up there is unknown. Now, okay, this is where things get a bit...
This is where things get a little bit... is it?
Okay, so in 1300, a man with a mechanical hand, known as the Chosen One, the same Frozen one that sent the old ones into the mirror dimension, we assume but don't know, journeyed into the graveyard and took the Necronomicon back to Castle Kadar. Shortly after, they were attacked by an army of the dead, which, and this is fucking badass, is historically known as the Army of Darkness.
This is the reason why the place is now a fucking theme park with roller coasters going through, and historians don't go near it. I'm not interested because I am aware of this bit, and I thought this was going to come up, and it would come up, and this is the reason why people stay away.
Do
from
they
it
have
now.
people in skeleton costumes?
No, but
You'll never get the Necronomicon.
No, we have very few LARPs hanging around there, but no, that genuinely, that is the reason why. I didn't know if you were going to bring it up, but people just stay the hell away from it, because when you're going around saying, well, yeah, basically, roughly around about this time, there was a big army of the dead. Come on.
You're too reserved for that shit over in England.
Well, surely we'd find the bones. It's bullshit. So it's just so stupid.
Okay, so the Army of the Dead wanted the Necronomicon to use it to conquer the world, but the combined armies of Lord Arthur, who was the ruler of Castle Kadar, and at the time his enemy, Henry the Red, defeated them. Well, that was my next thing. Do you know who Henry the Red is?
Henry V, maybe?
No, Henry the Red, the Duke of Shael, Lord of the Northlands.
Oh, him.
Have you been to the castle?
I've been to the castle. I was too hung up on the whole Arthur thing, because we don't talk about Arthur as in Arthur?
Like Lord Arthur.
Lord Arthur?
Yeah.
That sounds suspiciously close to King Arthur for my liking.
Oh, is there a King Arthur?
There's a King Arthur.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. It's not a common name for a royalty, okay? We're either George, Elizabeth, or Phillips. That's where we go for. Tick those off. Very rarely Arthur comes up.
It could be. Once again, I apologize. I didn't do the research.
That's fine, Lord Arthur.
Okay, so it was rediscovered in the 20th century, long after the castle was abandoned, but before it got turned into an amusement park. Professor Raymond Noby, his wife Henrietta, daughter Annie, and Annie's boyfriend Ed Gentley, who was also Raymond's assistant, discovered the Necronomicon and a Kandarian dagger in the early 1980s. Raymond took his wife Henrietta and the book and the dagger back to the cabin in the mountains and left his daughter Annie to continue the work at the archaeological site. Now, this is where the second theory kicks in, and it took us a long time to get here. I appreciate that. So at some point after the battle with the Army of Darkness, a handful of pages were torn out of the book and hidden in the ruins of the castle. So Annie stays back to find them while her parents go to the cabin. While in the cabin, Raymond begins to study and translate the Necronomicon, reading out loud and recording a passage that awoke an evil spirit in the woods surrounding the cabin, causing his wife to be possessed. We might, and I say it's a very big might, have the actual audio recording from the cabin, which I have to point out was circulating before the internet.
Okay.
So if it's a hoax, it's quite an old hoax.
Right.
Okay.
So a bit like those tapes that have been doing the rounds of the people that got lost in the woods a while back, and then was like, oh, that's real tape. They said this is way before then.
Yeah, like in the 80s.
Far out.
Okay, do you want to listen to the audio?
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
It has been a number of years since I began excavating the ruins of Kandar with a group of my colleagues. Now my wife and I have retreated to a small cabin in the solitude of these mountains. Here I continued my research undisturbed by the myriad distractions of modern civilization and far from the groves of academe. I believe I have made a significant find in the Kandarian runes, a volume of ancient Sumerian burial practices and funerary incantations. It is entitled Naturan de Manto, roughly translated, Book of the Dead. The book is bound in human flesh and inked in human blood. It deals with demons, demon resurrection, and those forces which roam the forest and dark bowers of man's domain. The first few pages warn that these enduring creatures may lie dormant, but are never truly dead. They may be recalled to active life through the incantations presented in this book. It is through recitation of these passages that the demons are given license to possess the living. Tatra amistrobin Hazarta. Tatir mano mansizon hazan sobar. Saman la robza. Dar his hiker dans de rodza. Ganda. Kanda! I know now that my wife has become host to a Kandarian demon. I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment. I would leave now to avoid this horror, but for myself, I have seen the dark shadows moving in the woods, and I have no doubt that whatever I have resurrected through this book is sure to come calling for me.
It's also thought to kill these demons, dismember them, or you can use the dagger on them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because we haven't really talked about the dagger much, but...
So what we're saying is there's a mystical thing called a dagger, which if you put into someone, they die.
Well, if they're a deadite, if they're a demon...
I don't want to step on this, Leslie, but that's a lot of things.
To kill a demon, you have to decapitate it.
To kill humans, you have to decapitate them.
You can kill a human in different ways. You can poison them, while these demons will only die if you dagger them anywhere or decapitate.
True. Continue.
Okay. A week later, a group of 5 friends decide to spend the weekend there and unknowingly summons whatever evil the Nobis unleashed just a few days before by playing Richard's recording of the translations. They awaken evil force, and from there, this is what we think that happens, and it lines up pretty close. One of the evil force lures Cheryl outside of the cabin. She's attacked. They rip off her nightgown, so that's why it's found far away.
Yep.
She gets back in the cabin and convinces Ashley to take her back into town. They find that the bridge is out, and this is kind of my problem. Like, if you believe that it's demons, then you can give these demons any attributes you want.
Yeah.
Can
totally.
they destroy a bridge? Can't
Sure.
they? So now, any plot hole, you can just say demons, and you can't actually prove it.
It's the J.K. Rowling way of doing things.
Yeah. So they go back in the cabin, and then Cheryl gets possessed and stabs Linda. They lock her in the basement, and they just plan to wait it out until the morning. The evil force breaks through a window and possesses Sally. But once again, plot hole, they can do anything. Can they break windows? Are they ghosts? Are they spirit? Do they have a body? Don't they have a body?
They can be made out of anything, like plasticine.
So Shelley attacks the group, they disembody her, as mentioned in the tape, and then they bury her. And with all this fighting, that's when they smash everything in the main room. Scotty, who, once again, was an alpha male, like, we think he probably decided, being the bravest person out of all of them, to go and get help. He's a brave, strong guy, unlike weak Ash.
Yeah.
And leaving, Ash to look after Linda, who... That's right, gets possessed.
Of course, demons!
And Ash decapitates her with a shovel, which is... It's not to his character, but given the circumstances between Ashley decapitating his girlfriend, who he loved, who was possessed by a demon, or Fake Shemp decapitating people for reasons, I think, the Ash, Linda, like, it makes more sense than Fake Shemp.
Yeah.
During this time, Cheryl gets out of the cellar, she gets outside. Ashley finds the shotgun and starts firing through the window. Scotty dies, gets possessed. Cheryl punches her way through the front door, and Cheryl and Scotty both fight Ashley. And then, we don't know, he might have daggered them, or we think he probably threw the Necronomicon into the fireplace. And to which they explode. And I don't I've mentioned the fact that they've melted, but I haven't really gone into it. It's like bones with no flesh on them.
Right.
Like it's as if their flesh rotted and dropped off.
Oh.
Which has no, I appreciate there's no logical reason, but also...
Demons.
Yeah, demons. For me, it's for reasons, for demons.
Oh, that's a t-shirt slogan. For reasons, see demons.
So then Ash gets away, or possibly gets killed, or, or is lost. Because once again, it would stick through us. His body could be in the mountains right now. We just don't know. What do you think happened?
It's kind of strange because you basically, the two theories we're presented with at the end of the day is that these assailants, we have no idea who they were, Fake Shemp They do this horrific massacre, they disappear. Fine, sure. But we don't have Ashley's body. And yet this other version, which purports that Ashley could have done it, but he's doing it because potentially he's fighting against demons, which I know ended up being the sole purpose of Within the Woods. I get that. That's a fictional film. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's the possibility he could have driven off. I mean, was the car still there?
No, like it was... Well, that kind of comes into something I'm about to say. What about this bit theory? What's worse than being a beta male?
A cook?
The beta male to a beta male. Ooh. What if it was Chet?
What if Chet?
He was dating Cheryl apparently at the time.
Yeah.
Him and Ash were best friends, yet he kind of forgot him to hang out with Scotty. So what if he came and Chet seems like a... like between Ash being the killer and Chet being the killer?
Well, let us go back to the drink that they used to make. Let's,
Yeah, he's sleeping drugs into drinks. Like, I think he followed them up. And maybe pretending to be a demon, taking out the bridge and just lopping them off one by one because he was dating Cheryl. They could have slept in the lounge room.
Yeah, no, totally. That's what I was saying to you before.
A disenfranchised, angry white guy. Have they ever?
That virtually never happens nowadays, ever.
Yeah. So, one last bit, and I think this is just people reaching to tie this whole thing up in a nice bow, and I think this is as dumb as a YouTube comment, but fucking...
Lol, you all go.
It's an important part of the story. Well, it's an important theory. They think the next day after Ashley burns the book, Annie comes to the cabin and brings the missing pages of the Necronomicon. Mm-hmm. One of these pages contains a spell which opens a hole up into time and space. And the book also contains a prophecy describing the arrival of the hero from the sky in 1300 AD.
As in?
The Chosen One. Annie later uses the pages containing the space-time vortex spell to send a Kandarian demon, which to be honest, I have no fucking idea what a Kandarian demon is.
Demon! That'll do.
Yeah, back in time. The usage of the spell also causes Ashley Williams to accidentally get sucked into the vortex, thus fulfilling the hero from the sky property mentioned in the Necronomicon. He gets stuck back in time and is the chosen one who gets the book originally and fights the army of darkness. Thus, he either died in time or used the spell to come back in the present. But you know what that doesn't explain?
Go on.
How does he have a mechanical hand?
Well, when you first mentioned it before, I was like, mechanical hand? I'll let him talk. He's the one that's done the research, not me. So in essence, either Ashley's killed a bunch of people and run away, or he's his own self-fulfilling prophecy. He's that loop just constantly going around.
Yeah, he got sucked into a void. That's fucking out of all the theories. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Okay, so next time we're going to look at one of North America's most high-profile boxing match. It was on America's birthday that the African-American community learned that their best and finest was just only a little bit better than this white guy no one cared about called Rocky Balboa.
Oh, sport, my favorite topic. Can't wait for this one.
Oh, no. And we might take a couple of episodes to get through the story of Rocky Balboa.
Wow.
But his life is completely insane.
Demons?